Now, as many of you know, I do a lot of ground tent camping, and as a result of that, this has led to a number of questions, and one question really stands out above a lot of them, and many of you are questioning as far as how do I keep my tents clean? Now, the yellow one here, the Sonmez Outdoors Discover 360. This tent is a good example because it's yellow and it's very prone to getting dirty. Now, there are a zillion of different ways that you can wash and clean your tents, and I'm just going to pick one of them out. I'm going to share with you how I keep my tents clean. Now, you may agree with me, you may not, but ultimately at the end of the day, those of you that are getting out there ground tenting and want to take care of your gear, prolong it so it lasts longer and so forth, and it looks better. And also, some of these tents out there, they are an investment. So by taking care of it like this, well, it's going to take care of your investment. Your investment's going to be better appreciated later down the line. So let's dive into it. Now, one thing I do want to point out, if you're going to go out there and clean your tent, it doesn't matter whether it's on grass or it's in your dirt driveway or paved driveway or this or that. Put a mat down. Obviously, if you're doing it on the mud, it's captain obvious why you want that on there. So you start spraying the water around, that's going to turn into a muddy mess. Even on the grass, you can get a little rubbish that's going to stick to the tent and you're putting it away and it's going to remain dirty, and the same thing applies for pavement. Pavement is more, as you're cleaning the tent, you're shimming it around and so forth, and obviously the asphalt can be abrasive, and technically the same thing can be said about doing it on dirt as well. But anyway, little tip there for you. Now, one thing I do want to point out here, this video was actually shot about a month ago, and it isn't terribly hot out, and that's something to keep in mind here. I'm going to pause the video here for a second. As you're washing your tent here, if it is not, you got to think ahead. If it's not terribly warm out or it's not terribly windy out, that tent's going to take a little while, depending upon the material that it's made from, to dry. If you're cleaning your tent during the winter months, you don't want to put it, regardless, you don't want to put your tent away wet. So unless you can keep this thing out overnight and so forth until it's absolutely dried, either start cleaning your tent early in the morning or kind of plan it out where you're in an open field where you have the highest chance of some sort of breeze coming through and direct sunlight. So therefore you have a higher probability of the tent drying out before the day is through. Now, in case you aren't familiar, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be setting up the Sonmez Outdoor. This is the London 360 Discover tent. This is hands down one of my top 3 favorite tents on this planet right now. This thing, I absolutely love this tent. It is classified as an 8 to 10 person, although I would say it's more comfortable as a 6 to 8. But then again, I'm heading out and it's usually myself and my son in this thing here. So, but you can put some bunks in here. Yeah, you can probably cram 10 people in here easily. Now, as I'm getting ready to blow the tent up here, many of you have asked about the battery that I'm using, because you're seeing me use the same battery over and over again in every single video that I go heading out. This is actually the Goal Zero. This is their 1500X. This is hands down one of my favorite batteries. It's the most reliable battery that I've used. It is very dependable. I've had not a single issue with it. Now, of course, if you do get a tent like this here, it doesn't come with any sort of pump. So in my videos, you'll see, now in this one, I'm only going to fill it up with the electric pump, but usually what I will do is once this gets to certain pressure, I will undo the electric pump and then I'll do the manual pump because that's more for high pressure. So the tent right here, you see some wrinkles and so forth in it, and that is because it's not blowing up all the way, but for cleaning it, it's good enough. Now, one of the first things that we want to do here is we're essentially going to walk around this tent. We're going to do a pre-flight, get a kind of an inventory check of where are those areas that need some special care to. In those areas, what we're going to do is we're going to go around and we'll spray that, start getting that stuff soaked. You can see in the doorway entrance there's some heavy dirt and grime from, actually the last place we were at was a little bit muddy and so forth. But that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going all the way around the tent. I'm just identifying all these spots and getting kind of an idea of what we're going to be working with here. You know, it's funny, as I'm watching this video here, I'm reminding, every time I go out there and clean this tent, because I clean this quite often, and I'm just, I know what I'm thinking as I'm in this video here. I'm just admiring the craftsmanship and the material, the hardware that this company uses on these tents here. This tent is, as cliche or you hear me say it, it's built like a tank. I mean, it really, yeah, this tent has taken a beating, but it can take it all day long. The material is extremely durable. Now I'm going to pause the video for just a moment and share with you some of the items that we're going to be utilizing here to clean the tent. It's not terribly much. Now, if you're near your house, why don't you just grab a hose? Now, I'm out in the middle of the field, so I don't exactly have access to a hose out in the middle of the field. I have the next best thing, so I'm going to be using a 4-gallon rinse off. This is a portable shower. It has its own battery source, which honestly, I've never killed the battery on this thing. And I have another 4 gallons of water inside my truck in case of emergency. Again, cleaning a tent, I can clean the tent and in about 3 gallons of water is what I'm typically going to go through when I'm cleaning this particular tent right here. Other than that, I have a eco-friendly cleaner, which you're going to see her in a moment. Sometimes I'll put a waterproofer or UV blocker, although in this video I did not do it. I bring a sponge with me. I bring a scrub brush for those more difficult spots. And I bring a broom and a vacuum, and I bring a handful of towels. And friends, that's all you need. And speaking of the rinse off, there it is right there. This thing's awesome. I use it for showering, cleaning dishes, rinsing off, no pun intended, and obviously washing my tent. It has this hose on it. I think it's like 6 feet long or something like that. You have a little button on the side, pop that, and there is the cleaner that I use. This stuff is awesome. This company's been around since the beginning of time. It's eco-friendly. Now, this particular bottle, I can get 2 washes of this tent behind you. All right, now when I'm cleaning a tent like this, what I will generally do is I will kind of break it up kind of in segments, kind of similar like when I wash my car. I will work on one side of the car, rinse it off, and then I'll move on to the front and the other side and so forth. And I do it the same way with this here as well. I kind of zone off the tent in little chunks. So in this particular case, with this particular cleaner rather, you spray it on, let it sit for a minute, work in it a little bit, you hose off. It's that easy. Again, this cleaner is awesome. Whatever cleaner that you use, just make sure you read the directions. I'm probably guessing a lot of the cleaners may have different directions of what you're going to do. Now, earlier we spoke about doing an inventory of all those grimy spots around the tent that might need a little extra care. If you run into one of those spots after you've done this right here, just reapply it, let it sit for a little bit. Work that, take the brush this time and very lightly. You don't want to press hard onto it because again, you got to remember these are fibers in the tent. You don't want to get them all loosed up. Just a little pressure on it, if even that, in circular motions. And usually, if you were cleaning your tent on a regular basis, unless you have some sap or something really funky on there, it should come off. But again, if it's been sitting there for a long time, yeah, like anything else, you spill grape juice on your white shirt, if you go clean it off right away, you have a higher chance of this being white again. I'm always wearing white, so I'm going to use that as an example. But if I let this sit in my hamper for a week or 2 weeks and I come back and try to get that grape stain out of there, it's not gonna fully come out. Same thing applies with your tent. Now, one thing I do want to point out on this rinse off right here, this thing is, if you've not seen one of these things, highly recommend taking a look at it. For being a portable shower, this thing, it has like 7 different settings on the nozzle, something like that. And it's absolutely perfect. You have everything from the shower, the mist, to there's a setting in there, I forget the name of it. You can see, actually, that's what I'm using right now, and it has a great stream, a powerful stream of water that is fantastic for getting up high on the tent or applying the pressure that you want. Now, it is worth noting that the directions on the bottle here does say, recommend that you do wear gloves. I never do. That's your choice, but I'm letting you know right now, don't follow my example here because I'm supposed to be wearing gloves, and you just saw me a moment ago kind of massaging that soap into the tent with my hands. Now here's something important here, kind of piggybacking off of what we were talking about earlier. You're seeing me now breaking out a towel. Now in retrospect, I spoke a moment ago about planning things out. What I should have done is I should have started on the shadow side of the tent here, clean that first. And because obviously the sun's on the other side and the shaded side would take longer to dry. But the point where I'm leading with this here is if it's not hot, or if you're going to be putting the tent away relatively soon after cleaning it, again, we want to ensure that it's completely dry. So take out a towel and start drying it off. Make sure you get in all the cracks and so forth and ensure that it's completely dry. And this wet towel, as you're going to find out here in a moment, is going to come in handy. And the reason why you want that tent completely dry is you go putting this thing away. If there's any sort of moisture in it, that's going to turn into mold. And mold is trouble. Something like this, it's going to smell. It's going to be not safe for you to breathe as you're sleeping in this thing. And basically, whatever your investment of the tent is potentially going out the window. Like the outside, we're going to do a pre-flight inspection first. We're going to get an idea as far as what we're working with. And as you can see here on the floor here, okay, you see all this kind of fibrous stuff, and that's because of the rug that I was using in there before. And there's like a mixture of dirt and fibers in there, so that's obviously needs to be dealt with. And then as we look around to all of the framing inside of here, we see all these marks in here. These are areas that we're going to take note of. Now, cleaning the floor, I do it two ways. I have a broom that I'll take out with me, and then what you're going to see here in a moment, I have this battery-powered DeWalt vacuum that works fantastic for getting the every nook and cranny that is on the floor out of there. All right, so earlier I told you about that wet towel. Well, here is that wet towel, and from my experience, most of any sort of grime or marks inside the tent on the frame here is going to come off with that wet towel. But if you do have some stubborn stains, you can grab that same cleaner and kind of spray it on there and work it out from there. What's funny is as I'm watching this video here with you guys, I'm reminded every time I get to this point cleaning this particular tent right here, because this is a big tent, and at this point my arms are cleaning those beams up on the top there, and they are just absolutely spent. But I'm going to say to you the same thing that I tell myself at this point. Got to keep pushing through there, because by cleaning the tent and doing a good job and keeping those intervals kind of close together when you're getting out there and cleaning the tent and so forth, it's going to prolong the life of the tent. It's going to look better, and it's going to be better for your investment, whatever you picked up your tent for. Now, in a moment, I'm just going to clean the floor with that same wet towel, and from my experience, that does basically what I need it to do. All right, now one thing I do want to point out here, it is time to put the tent away. This is very important, friend. Okay, have you ever done your laundry and just taken your shirt and just wadded it up and put it into your dresser? I know I did when I was a kid. Doing the tent, wadding it up and just cramming it into whatever bag that it came in is going to do no justice. You're going to get these unnecessary creases. It's going to be more wear on the tent. It just is not the right way of doing it. So just like your clothes, take a minute. You're almost done. You're almost at the finish line at this point, and just fold the tent up in a proper way where you can get it, and also it's going to fit in its bag a lot easier as well. And it prolongs the life is what I meant to say earlier. All right, now as I'm folding up the tent here, because we washed the tent, so now the mat is wet on top. So now the final part of this here is, as I'm folding this thing up, I take the towel and I'm wiping off the bottom of the tent as I'm folding this thing up as well. Now that is going to ensure literally every aspect of this tent has been cleaned. All right, friends, and that is it. This was kind of a two birds, one stone for me. I had to go out there and clean the tent anyways. Many of you have been asking, how do I keep my tents clean, and how can you clean your tent as well? So yeah, two birds, one stone. So yeah, go out there, reward yourself, grab a beer if you don't have one already. And friends, if you have any questions at all, leave a comment down below. I will be happy to do what I can to get you straightened out. And otherwise, I will see you in the next video.